Every day, you're on the internet. You scroll, you post, you connect. But here's the thing. You don't actually own any of it. Your data, your identity, your entire digital life, it's all just rented space. But a new system is emerging. This is Web3, the internet, rebuilt for ownership. All right, before we dive in, a quick heads up. This presentation on our channel, Blocks Bonds Funds, is created for educational and informational purposes only. It's really important to remember that nothing here constitutes financial or investment advice. So today, we're going to cut right through all the buzzwords and get straight to the internet's core architecture. We're going to break down how this new user-owned system is being built, not just as another app, but as a completely new foundation for our entire digital world. Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll break down the internet as we know it today. Then we're going to build up the Web3 alternative piece by piece. We'll look at how it totally redefines big ideas like identity, check out what you can build with it, and then at the end, we'll put the two systems side by side to really see the difference. All right, let's get into it. First up, we need to peel back the layers and ask a simple question. How does the internet you use every single day actually work under the hood? Okay, so to really get the problem with the current system, we have to talk about a concept, a pattern really, that I'm sure you felt. It's called N-shitification, and it perfectly describes the life cycle of so many platforms we use. You know how it goes, right? First, they're amazing for users. They offer a fantastic service to get all of us hooked. Then they start to pivot. They change things to serve their real customers, the advertisers, by tweaking algorithms and basically selling our attention. And finally, in the last stage, they squeeze everyone, users and businesses, to pull every last bit of value out for themselves. The thing is, this isn't just a result of bad decisions. It's a predictable outcome of the architecture itself. And that brings us to this fundamental difference in philosophy, which is literally coded into the design of these systems. In Web 2, the platform is the absolute center of the universe. It owns the servers, it owns the code, and yeah, it owns the data you create. It gets to set all the rules. The entire system is built for centralized control, which, when you think about it, makes that whole process almost inevitable. And look, this centralized model, it has these built-in systemic weaknesses. For one, your data is stuck in these silos. You can't just pick up your social network and move it to another service. The whole network also has single points of failure. I mean, if one company's servers go down, the service just vanishes for millions of people. And maybe most importantly, this design gives a very small number of companies huge power to censor content and kick people off their platforms. Oh, and all those massive centralized databases, they're basically giant glowing honeypots for hackers. Okay, so now for the really fascinating part. How does Web3 even begin to respond to all these problems? Well, it doesn't just suggest new rules or better privacy policies. It proposes an entirely different architecture from the ground up. So we're building a whole new system, layer by layer. At the very bottom, you have the blockchain. Think of it as a shared, unchangeable public record, a single source of truth for everyone on the network. On top of that, we add smart contracts. This is just self-executing code that automates the rules of an application, which gets rid of the need for a corporate middleman. And then at the very top, you have the wallet. This is your personal key to this new internet. It controls your identity, your assets, your access, everything. And here you can see the whole system in action. Just look at the flow here. The user, with their wallet, interacts directly with an application's code. That interaction triggers a smart contract on the blockchain, which then permanently records the action on that shared public ledger. See what's missing? There's no private central server in the middle handling the transaction. It's a direct peer-to-network interaction, and that is a fundamentally different way of building things online. Now, this new foundation, it lets us completely reimagine two of the most basic concepts on the internet: what your identity is and how we establish trust between people. I mean, just think about it for a second. In Web 2, you don't have one digital identity, do you? You've got a Google identity, a Facebook one, an Apple ID, just dozens of separate accounts that are owned and controlled by these massive companies. You're basically a digital renter. But in Web 3, your crypto wallet gives you a single, unified identity that you can take anywhere, and one that you actually own. You bring your identity to the apps, not the other way around. It completely flips the model from renter to owner. And this right here is the core principle. Your access, your digital stuff, your online identity, it's all secured by pure mathematics, by the private key inside your wallet, not by some company's terms of service that can change on a whim.
This gives you what's called digital sovereignty. It means no single company can just decide to freeze your account, or delete your stuff, or cut off your access to a service you depend on.
This change creates what people call a trustless system. Now, that name is a little misleading. It doesn't mean there's no trust. It means you don't have to blindly trust a person or a company to do the right thing. Instead, your trust is placed in open source code and the decentralized network itself. Smart contracts do exactly what they're programmed to do, and that's guaranteed by the blockchain. This is what lets total strangers make deals with a kind of verifiable certainty. It's an idea people sometimes sum up as code is law. Okay, so we have these new building blocks of ownership and trust. So what can we actually build with them? Let's take a look at how this changes not just apps, but entire organizations. You know, a regular app runs on a private central server. The company controls everything, the code, the data, and they can change the rules whenever they want. A dApp, or a decentralized app, is different. It runs on the public blockchain. Its main logic is locked into smart contracts that anyone can see and that can't just be changed out of the blue. This makes the whole thing way more transparent, super resistant to censorship, and able to run all by itself without a central company pulling the levers. Now, let's take that same idea and scale it up from just one app to a whole organization. That's where you get a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization. Think of it like a company or community that's native to the internet, but it doesn't have a CEO or a board of directors. Instead, all its rules are just written in code, and all the big decisions, I'm talking everything from managing millions of dollars in a treasury to approving new features, are made by its members through a totally transparent on-chain voting process. And believe it or not, this isn't just chaos. It's a very structured and auditable process. A member will draft a proposal, and it gets debated out in the open. The community might do an informal poll, a temperature check to see how people feel. If it looks promising, it gets submitted as a formal on-chain proposal. Then, members use their tokens to cast their votes. If it passes, there's usually a built-in safety delay, a time lock, before the smart contract automatically makes the change happen. The entire process moves governance out of a closed boardroom and onto an open network where everyone can watch. All right, this brings us to the final showdown. Let's do a side-by-side comparison. We're going to map out the exact data flow for a really simple action, just to see how profoundly different these two blueprints for the internet really are. This table pretty much sums up the entire architectural shift. Look at the left side, Web 2. If you want to post something, you send your data to a platform's private server, which writes it to their private database. The platform is the gatekeeper for every single thing you do. Okay, now look at the right side, the Web 3 flow. You use your wallet to sign and authorize an action. The app sends that transaction to a public smart contract. And finally, the entire decentralized network of computers validates and records that data forever. You're talking directly to a shared system, not a private one. So which of these blueprints is going to define the next decade? Well, the truth is, this transition is still in its very, very early days. Web3 has some serious hurdles to clear. The user experience can be pretty complex for most people. It's still figuring out how to scale, and, ironically, we're even seeing new kinds of centralization pop up within the ecosystem. But the underlying architectural change, that fundamental shift from a rented internet to an owned one, that is absolutely happening. And honestly, that is the most important thing to take away from all this. This isn't just about new apps or some kind of speculative digital gold rush. This is a fundamental reconstruction of the internet's foundation. While the websites and apps we use might look familiar on the surface for a while, the plumbing underneath, the very pipes that control our data, our identity, and our ownership, is being completely rebuilt for a more open and user-owned future.